Welcome to the Hawk Talk podcast. I'm Mike McDermott. I'm your host, and today we are talking about getting real. Yesterday, a number of students from River Valley High School went to Richland Center High School with business teacher Miss Heidi Radel, and we're joined by Miss Radel today, as well as students Garrett and Brianna, to talk about the experience. So, Miss Radel, can you tell us what Get Real is all about?
Certainly. We take about 100 students each year to Richland Center, and we combine that with Richland Center, Riverdale, Weston, Ithaca, and Eagle. And we've been doing it about 14, 15 years now, and students get to pick what kind of occupation they want when they're around 25, 24 years of age. And then with that, that's the only thing they get to decide. And then they get a scenario where they are married, divorced, single, children, no children, and based on what kind of education they're going to get, they get a student loan assigned to them. They have to go and live a life for a whole month financially, where they have to take taxes out of their paycheck, open up a checking account and savings account. They have to buy a car, they have to buy housing, and then they have to pay bills such as child care, utilities. They have to invest money, and there's police officers walking around giving tickets. They have to pull life scenarios, whether they got a flat tire. So they have to try to make it out of the simulation with a positive balance, and they actually can't get out of the simulation unless they have a positive balance in their bank account.
Fantastic. Now, Garrett, you've been part of this for several years. How was your role different this year? What were your duties?
This year I was tasked with more of an introductory role, just helping the students, giving them a general overview, and it was more eye-opening this time around to see how much work goes into such a great event, actually. Okay,
and so then were you orienting or introducing the students who were actually going through it?
Yeah,
correct.
Exactly
that you were telling them what they were going to have to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Great. What do you remember from going through it the first time?
The first time around, it was definitely, as I said earlier, an eye-opening experience. You learn that life isn't just this easygoing flow; that there's actually a lot more depth than I had previously believed, I guess.
Sure. Now, Brianna, this was your first time, correct?
Yes, it was.
And what was your biggest takeaway from the event yesterday?
Yesterday definitely opened my eyes to how much everything actually costs in real life. I didn't expect it to be so much, but there's also so much more that goes into it. You have to pay more bills than I expected. There were little things I didn't even think of when I thought about expenses I'd have in the future.
Now, walking around the event, there were a couple of things that caught my eye that made me wonder. One, there was a table. So each table, just to sort of paint the picture, each table had a sign with things like gasoline or child care or groceries, right? And there was a couple of them that I was curious about. One, the sign said fate. So could somebody tell me about the fate table and what did that mean? How does that come into play?
Well, the faith table, students have to pull 2 different cards throughout the simulation, and with that, it's almost like Monopoly, where they pull a card to find out maybe they got a flat tire, maybe they broke their leg and they have to go to the hospital and they've incurred an expense, or maybe they got $20 from a lottery ticket. So it's just a random draw. Maybe they hit a deer. And Brina, what happened to you when you pulled tickets?
I got a flat tire, so I had to pay an expense of $300, but I also received an extra $30 because I saved money by going on a picnic and not going to a restaurant.
Fantastic. And I could say from real life, this year I've hit a deer and had a flat tire, which doesn't happen all that often. So, in fact, my wife and I both hit deer in the same week. So 2 fate cards that haven't showed up. Both came at the same time. Now, there was another table that said SOS. Garrett, do you know what that was about?
It was basically an assistance table that would help you out with any sort of financial or other issues you would have as you were going along. Just like a line to reach out to and help you, I guess.
Okay, so as I watched students going around, as they went to each table, they actually had to write out a check, correct?
Yeah.
For whatever the expense was. So how does that work as the students go through the activity that day? Then they're writing checks and keeping track in a check register. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, great. How long has this event been taking place, Ms. Radel?
Well, I want to say it's about 14 or 15 years now. We had our 10-year anniversary several years ago when we were still doing it at the UW campus. So I'd say around 15 years.
Okay.
And we've been a part of it for 14. The first year we were not part of it, and we've been a part of it ever since.
That's fantastic. So who coordinates the event? Who sort of puts together the whole event?
Well, there's a team of us that sit on a committee. I'm one of them. And UW Richland Extension, Chelsea Wanacke heads it. And then we have local bankers are part of our committee where they donate supplies. So they donate the checkbooks and the checks and the registers. And then all of us schools pitch in, and we have a member of our staff on the committee. And then we also pay an entrance fee for our school so that we can help pay for the 100+ volunteers for food for the volunteers.
Great. So, Brianna, on the way back from the event, tell me a little bit about the conversation among the students. So, having gone through it, particularly students who hadn't gone through it before, what was maybe some of the major topics of conversation that people were talking about?
The major topic that a majority of people talked about was how stressed the events made them for their future, because it definitely opened their eyes to how much things actually cost, as well as the process you have to go through to actually pay all your bills. And they were definitely stressed because other people got really bad lives, I guess you could say, with not a lot of money and a bad FICO score. So it was really difficult for us. So everyone just talked about their difficulty going through the simulation.
Sure. One of the areas that I heard a lot of buzz about was childcare and the cost of childcare. Did that come up?
It came up a lot because it happened to be the greatest expense most people had to pay while they were within the simulation.
Fantastic. So it appeared to me to be as an outsider, this is the first time that I had attended the event, like a really great example of teachers working with students to try to make education real. That we always talk about that. How does this apply to your daily life? And that brought in lots of areas of things that you've probably covered in your educational career so far, and really put it in a format that made it real. So a fantastic event. Anything else that you guys would like to add before we wrap up?
I would just like to thank the students. I want to make the comment that every year when we take the students, we remind them to dress up and look professional and act professional. They're not only representing themselves, they're representing River Valley, they're representing me, and we want them to walk in carrying themselves in a certain manner. And every year, without fail, we have several different volunteers come up and talk about how great the River Valley students are, how well behaved they are, and how well they're dressed they are. And they instantaneously know what school they belong to just by how they are dressed. And I want to thank the students, and I want to thank all the volunteers that come from our areas to help out make the event possible.
And I would second that too, by the way, that our kids did look extremely well prepared, well dressed, and very engaged in what was going on. That was impressive all the way around. So good for you guys, and thanks for joining us today.